Hey, what's up, everybody? We got Nathan back with us today. Woo! How are you
Hey,
doing, Nathan?
yeah, I'm good, man. It's good to
Dude,
set my
it's
timer now
awesome.
on a Friday to be here at the right time. Super distracted and squirreling everywhere. So,
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where like, okay, we've grown, we went from like randomly doing this at a random time to kind of narrowing it down to Fridays, and now it's the right time, and that's how things just gotta work into a good feeling sometimes. But speaking of like working into a groove, today I'm really excited for what Nathan kind of brought, what he wants to talk about. And I actually think it's an awesome topic. We're going to be talking about the ladder of success and expectation, whether that be working expectations up, working expectations down, which can be much harder. But I'm going to let Nathan kick it off. He has like a really neat story about this, and I think it's going to be a great conversation. So
yeah,
tell us about expectations and success.
yeah. I mean, I think it's been like this topic this week, and it's something that always kind of comes up with me, and it's kind of funny because I'll notice it with myself once I have like a conversation, and what made me really kind of start thinking about it these past few days was we have a guy, and we're doing a lot of building blocks with all these different avenues we're doing, and it's like having a conversation immediately, be like, well, what am I going to offer this guy? And we presented an offer to somebody for a position, and I'm just already thinking for him. And what I mean by that is like I'm already thinking, man, he came from this, he came from this, he came from this. If I offer him this, is he going to feel offended? Or is he going to want to just join the opportunity? And the offer I made, I thought was a fair offer. It's just I don't know what his expectations
Yeah.
were.
So
And
you
so
mean like I know you can't talk about that specific situation, but
yeah,
you mean like he was kind of at this higher level, like maybe 200,000, let's just say, and you're offering him 100 or 100 and you're offering 50 or something like that, like a
exactly.
drawback.
Yeah, I'm already making this assumption that he's made this and he wants this, when in reality that's never even been discussed. But it made me think like, okay, exactly that. Like, is my offer going to be good enough? And is this person going to be able to grasp that based off of the success? It's kind of like we used to say it in retail all the time, or just any jobs you can hear it, but it's like you're overqualified. And when
Yeah.
people come in and I remember I used to do that, like in retail, like if somebody, I still remember this day, and he may hear me, on here, but I don't think it's Baron Wortham used to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And he was a linebacker. And the reason why I knew him so well was I used to play the video game Madden, and I would always use Baron Wortham. So I was like a big fan. And I find out he wants to come and work overnight for me at Walmart. This is years ago. And I remember interviewing him, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even like this. What is going on here? But at the end of the day, it turned out to be a great, relationship, and I think he did well, and it was for what he was wanting. And it doesn't mean that you don't go to where you feel like you need to be. So this is what it reminded me of, and so I ended up presenting the offer, and it was great. It worked out just well, but it made me really kind of start thinking about this idea of, well, one, we're always wanting to work up the ladder to move up and to move up and to hit these certain heights. But what happens when you get to a place where you need to work down? And
Mm.
there's not necessarily something wrong with that, because we're all in different stages. And so today even we're like, hey, I want to bring in this person to do this. And I was having a conversation with my main guy, John, and we were like, if we were in retail and we were making, let's just say, hypothetically, let's say you had somebody making $15 an hour, and they were doing an amazing job, but that was the restricted amount that they could make within that environment, let's say, because it was so restricted and so corporate, right? But then let's say we were going to offer them, hypothetically, let's say 20 an hour, let's just say, to come in and do something different and to not have the stress and to not have this. They may not necessarily have the skill set, but we knew that they had the drive and the work ethic to do it. Well, it would look like a big jump. And so it's this concept and this mindset of, I think somebody definitely would love to take an opportunity where maybe they make more, maybe they don't make more, but it's a better opportunity than if somebody, let's just say that same person that we're talking about, hypothetically, let's say they made 40 an hour. Well, me offering them this 20 an hour, it may feel like a punch in the gut, even for the
Yeah.
opportunity. And so it's just this, it made me really think like that's kind of a big deal in how we, I think, how we take certain opportunities, how we look at opportunities. Um, and it's like, I keep thinking like, if we just remembered where our rock bottom places were, then none of that matters because it's always better than where we're at. I don't know if you've heard this phrase before, and if you have or haven't, I'd love to just kind of hear your input. But there's this phrase like, "What's the worst that could happen?" You know. But when you really start thinking about what's the worst that could happen, I would, you can challenge yourself. I can challenge myself to constantly ask that. So you might say like, "Hey, Kendall, what's the worst that could happen if, um, our NK Legacy business just goes bankrupt?" And you might say, well, um, I won't be able to buy groceries for the week. I'm just throwing something out,
That
right?
would really suck.
And then I might say, well, what's the worst that can happen if you don't buy groceries for the week? And you might say, well, you know what? I might have to go and borrow, some money from somebody to get groceries. Okay, what's the worst that could happen there? And you keep asking yourself that, you realize, like, man, at these steps that I would be at, it's way better than what's the worst that could happen at the very end, right? So it's this mentality of just being humble, I think, and but it really got me excited to think about it because I'm like, we just have to find people at the different stages, and you help them at their different stages. And sometimes the people that are at this stage up here, trying to climb that ladder really fast, are probably not the person that are going to work out for your company or your group. That you might have them at the ladder in the middle, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're not the right fit. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily offended. It just means that's not the pace that they're going, and they still have a way to climb to where they're like, no, I still want to climb this ladder. My ladder's still growing, right? Or my roof's
Right.
a little taller. I don't know. Had my roof done yesterday, so I had ladders all around the roofs and everything.
Oh,
So
nice.
you think about that,
Fresh on the mind.
but yeah, so just kind of, I guess I'd love to kind of just hear your input in as far as that goes, and just yeah.
Well, one thing that I thought was really interesting, you asked the question like, how do you? It's all about like how you value opportunities, and I thought, man, it's so good. Like so often, I think we're tempted to value opportunities specifically and solely on a dollar amount, like a salary, right? You talk about that $20 an hour, but it's like, okay, but no matter whether they're going from 15 to $20 an hour or they're going from 40 to $20 an hour, what other value opportunity points are there? And I think especially for like a new investor, entrepreneur and stuff like that, these are a lot of the things that, we have to think about going into different businesses and opportunities. And one of the things that I love to tell people is like, since the beginning of, my journey, I've, I've paid, I paid $300 for my real estate education training. I know maybe 500 because I think I almost finished a realtor course. I don't have my real estate license, but I was like this close to finishing. That may have been like $200. And there was like a $300 wholesaling course to be in. So maybe like $500 overall. Outside of that, though, it's been a lot of times falling on my face, but that free education. But every time like move to bigger and bigger and bigger deals, which I'm really excited to talk about some of the deals that we have in the pipeline right now. Because like one of the deals that we're working on right this minute is the biggest deal that I've worked on today. And that one's gonna be really exciting when that one gets all said and done. And you know, so I think that sometimes we have to look at opportunities, not just in a sense of like, okay, what can I get paid out of this? But it's like, what can I learn? Where can this take me? What's the bigger, long-term opportunity out of what we're creating here, not just the here and now? And like that's something we talked about a lot with the commission finance flipper, right? When we talked to these guys, it was about, giving somebody this long-term vision. And I think that's an important piece of communicating with your team, with the people that you're trying to get on board with your idea. Like when you're trying to sell an idea to somebody, it's all about what's the long-term potential, the big picture. You've got to get people to sit back and be able to see what you see, and that can be a really hard thing sometimes. And reputation helps and stuff like that, absolutely. But I think that we all have to keep in mind, you know really, and I've talked about this before, like the importance of, first off, you have to know like what's your big goal? And then everything that you choose to do from there is literally asking yourself the question, does this take me towards that big goal or away from that big goal? Now, if your only goal is you want to make more money, you want to make more money, you want to make more money, and this makes you make less money, and all you care about is the immediate, then probably it takes you away from your goal. But for most people, they actually have some sort of bigger long-term goal. Even if they want to make more money, usually it's for some purpose. And then maybe it's like they want to have generational wealth. So long term, they want to be able to create generational wealth to do a big thing. So then it's like, well, sometimes maybe taking a pay cut right now for some massive free education in the next 5 to 10 years could actually help you to, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5x the amount that you can do just because of that education. I mean, would you agree with that, Nathan?
No, I mean, I definitely think so. And it's funny because it makes me think about like, when I hear you saying that, I hear this mentality of when you invest into something, even if you invest something, whether it be money, time, and in this case, I hear it as more time. Then when you invest that time, even if you're getting the experience, and the experience is what
Right.
matters, the education, the experience. And immediately, I thought of something. I thought, it's just like when we go on vacation, and people go on vacations, and they might spend, let's just say, $10,000 on like a family vacation, right? And they're spending this money. They're spending money to gain an experience and to create memories, and
Mm.
it's all good. There's nothing bad with that. That's all good, but it's creating an experience. And I just think like it's kind of like if you treated it like that. So like for me, one thing that I think about all the time is like when I'm off, when you consider it off of work. So if, let's say if I'm at home, and I post about this quite a bit because it's been on Saturdays when it's been happening, but I genuinely enjoy running comps on Saturdays. I love running values because it's quick, it's a challenge, it's almost like a game, right? And I genuinely enjoy that. But sometimes when I'm in the office, like Monday through Friday, sometimes it gets stressful. It's like it's overbearing. And we have a great team, and most of them run the comps. But there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, I'm still looking at stuff, and I'm like, oh, I got to do this, got to do this, got to do that, and it becomes more like a job. And I thought about it, and I'm like, if I had to, if I was barely, let's just say, if I wasn't really making anything and I was just gaining the experience, but I learned how to run the comps like I do on Saturdays, that is worth it for me. And so it's kind of, one of the things we've even talked about was like, if everybody just learned how to value a property as like a foundational, quality or skills, however you say it, for what they would be doing for our company, it changes everything. And that one
Yeah.
skill, and it's like that one skill may just be like, oh, running the register at a retail store. Everybody needs to really know how to do it because you never know when you're going to need somebody to check out. And it kind of reminds me of that. And so it just goes back to like, what do you pay based off of certain skills? What do you pay based off of things like this? So like we have this one guy, and he's amazing, and he came in just really just kind of looking for something to do for a job full time, and he was going to do this, and then it changed to this, and now it's something else. But now he's doing something that is going to it's going to increase his pay. It's going to increase opportunity. He never really asked for it. He's been as humble as it's always been, and he's like, whatever you need me to do. And once we found something that I'm like, man, he really gets it, it changes everything. And it's like he
It's
wasn't
awesome.
necessarily even seeking that opportunity, but because of his just character and because of his skill set that we found, now it's going to increase all these different things and open many doors for him. And that's what
Yeah.
makes it exciting. So it's like it's just finding that balance. It's finding that balance of people for the business. I don't know if we want to mention Randy, but even Randy and Hillary, they're amazing. And I'm thinking,
Absolutely.
I like, man, as agents, you guys should be just absolutely doing a great job because you guys are great at what y'all are doing.
Right.
And so it's just things like that. It's like you want to see people line up and kind of fit into that groove of what their skill set is. So
It was really interesting though, because you said like spending money on a vacation, you're paying for an experience. And then made me think about like the other things that we pay money for. And like one of the big things that people pay money for to increase the amount of money they make is college, right? People pay for this degree so they can get a job with a college degree. So I don't know, this is just statistics. I looked it up online, a quick Google search, but according to what I quickly found on Google, I looked what's the average cost of 4-year college, and they say about $9,000 to $22,000. 9,000 for in-state, 2,200 for out-of-state. So let's just say it's like 15,000 for 4 years. So you're looking at $60,000 for a 4-year education. Now let's go back. Do you know how much somebody's making a year if they're making $20 an hour?
40,000.
They're making 40,000.
41,200 or 600,
Okay,
something like that.
so 40,000, and then if you're making, so then say if you're making 40 an hour, you're making 80,000. So let's say that like somebody came into, just like NK or Ambition Group or something like that. Right now they're making 80,000 a year, and it's like, okay, well, hey, we are only going to be able to pay you, let's just say it's a pay cut. Let's just say it's down to 40,000. So there is a $40,000 cut there. But let's see, like most people, they're paying 60,000 for, this degree. And I looked up the average salary for somebody. So for some college to no college is $46,748. And a bachelor's degree is 70,000. So what is that? Like 24,000, 23,000. So it's like a $23,000 increase for a $60,000 degree. So it takes you a couple years to make up for that deficit plus interest and all that kind of stuff. So it's just interesting. Like, I think when you even look at it from that perspective of, okay, look at a little bit of a pay cut, even if you have to, maybe look at that pay cut as, hey, this is my degree. Like, this is my ability to increase.
Right.
But then from there, if you can learn a high value skill set, such as what we learn in investing and, with like stocks or real estate, it's going to be able to make you way more than that $23,000 a year. Like if you learn enough, it basically becomes uncapped, which is like a very exciting proposition of the investing in the real estate world, right?
Yeah.
So I think it all comes down to like, you gotta look at it from that perspective. And yeah, that's interesting. But I think with that, you've really got to find a team to work with that wants to see everybody succeed. It's just like you said with that one guy who you found a place where he can succeed, and long term it's going to be able to create a lot more. There definitely are companies out there where you go to work for them and you might have a super high value skill set. They're going to utilize that and really not pay you anything more, pay you any more at all. Right. Versus another company is going to go, we recognize your skill set. We see that the value is there. Like, we're going to pay you for that skill, whether it's something that you develop inside the job or, whatever. And so picking the right team is also definitely strategically important in this growth path. But I think something that'd be really interesting in this, to kind of like ping pong back and forth, is, if we were going to talk about the ladder of success and expectations in light of building, wealth, building a legacy in that journey. So you have this journey of wealth and legacy that's stacked up next to like the ladder of success and expectations. What steps are you going to be going through? Like, what are people going to have to get through to get to that end level of wealth and success? You know what I mean? Like, what are those ladder steps?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it's goals. It's like, what are you trying to obtain? And a lot of us don't know that. I think so. I even think one of the biggest steps is truly, and I know we don't see this too often, but having some kind of a mentor. Having somebody that really can help you say, hey, what can I help you hold accountable to? And it doesn't have to be some paid coach. It doesn't have to be some guru. It could literally be a family member. It could be a friend, somebody with a business sense, to where it's like, just sitting down with them and just saying, hey, can I sit down with you and just pick your brain and just, can you help me get to those next steps? And it's like having that person that kind of can guide you through the stuff that they've had. So I would say getting somebody that's had that experience that can like kind of guide through that, because a lot of times we don't know what the next steps are. I think at the end of the day, we have to, what I thought about was when you talk about that money, and the college, I thought about investing. So I always think to get up to the next steps, you have to somewhat invest. You have to have some form of investment, whether that's going to be a big monetary amount or whether that's going to be a time. But if you even told yourself, I'm going to invest 10 hours a week to gain this ROI back, well, what's that ROI look like? Could it look like 40 hours a week more off? I don't know. I mean, could it look like, okay, a monetary value? Could it look like, a self, whatever that looked like? You put 10 hours into the gym, you're going to physically be more healthy, right? You're going to, those types of things that you want to set out. And I think just setting out, what are you investing and what's your ROI on it? I think that's a big step. And I just think like it's something for every individual person, because everybody's at a different place. And that's why it's like, I don't think you can answer that directly a perfect way, but
I think goals. I mean, everybody has to have goals if they're going to get anywhere.
True.
So, I mean, I would say it's pretty universal.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be different paces. You have to know what pace you're going at. You can't try to step 5 steps at one time if your stride is very short.
Well, and it's weird too. Like, there's some people, and I can't explain it. Like, I've been one of those people that I feel like I've struggled to like get out of the gate quickly, even though I feel like I hustle hard on some of the things that I've worked on. But you have other people who just like, boom, they're just like, they kind of accidentally stumble into success. Like, you hear of these stories. So you just have to accept that, like, there's all sorts of stories, but just because it may not be the ideal situation, like, doesn't mean it's not good.
Right. One thing that I'll share real quick, and I don't share this too often. I don't know if I've shared it at all, but when I was in retail and I was at different management levels, obviously, God humbled me when I was I would say I was very arrogant and greedy. And at that top point of that moment was when I really got like shown, like, nope, this isn't how it's going to go. Turn around and you're going to do it this way. And something I don't share about is I took a pay cut to go to the next company, and it didn't affect me much financially because I knew I was where we needed to be. But it was actually very humbling in the work ethic. And then the next place that I went to, I took another pay cut. And what's funny is when I think about those moments, I think that third place, where I was at last, Sports Authority, I probably learned more from that and where I'm in today than I did from those other places. And it makes me think, like, the place where I got paid probably the least in these positions, it was the one that I gained the most value. Now, I didn't know what that value was at that time. And that's the thing that I talk about. Is sometimes that's why that mentor is really good, because if you asked me, Nathan, and we said this the other day, I asked John this, I was like, 6 years ago, we jokingly said this. He started with me back in, what was it, 2019? So that was 4 years ago. But we both, I bought a lot in Brownwood, and he owns one through an owner finance deal. And I was like, 4 years ago, if I would have said, hey, we both own some land in Brownwood, what would you have said? And he was like, no way. Like, why would we even own land in Brownwood? We never would have thought 4 years ago that would have been the trajectory of how our business is going. But all that learning and stuff got us to a place to where you're in places you don't even realize. And so that's why I say, like, that mentor. That's why I think about that time in Sports Authority. I'd be honest, I wished I would have had that. I wished I would have sought that out. But instead, I still to this day sometimes think I can figure it out myself. And the truth is, if somebody can say, man, you've done this, this, and this, this, and this, you should be doing this. And it's the same way I look at somebody right now, and I think, man, that guy's a store manager for this company, and he's been doing it for like 10 years. I sit there and I immediately think, man, he would be so good at this, because I relate and I can see that experience. So I don't know if that's kind of going on a bunny trail there, but it just makes me think about it, as you go, you just have to really know and kind of have an idea of where you're headed.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I want to talk about like the skill sets thing in just a second, because I feel like that's an important step, like evaluating that. But to your point, it's interesting because I heard about, and I wish I knew his name. There's some, like, I want to say he's a billionaire business guy. He like buys businesses, It was just a little interview, but there was one blip that like stuck out to me. I was like, I need to lock that away. I just know I'm going to need it someday. And he said, whenever I take over a company that's failing, the first thing I do is I go look for the most successful company in that industry. And then he said, I hire their COO, their chief operations officer, to be the CEO of this failing company that I just bought. We turn it around and we take it up. And I thought, that's kind of brilliant. It's like literally what you just said. Like you take somebody that literally has these prime skill sets for that industry. They know the operations, they know how things should go. You bring them in to steer the ship. And it's like, geez, like, yeah, if there were anybody that has like the skill sets to be able to do that, it's probably going to be the COO at one of the leading companies in the industry. I thought that was so interesting. So I locked that away.
Pretty good. I don't think I've ever heard that before, so I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. But that actually leads me perfectly into like what I feel like is another important step. I love the goals thing. And then I would say once you kind of know your goals, you really have to be able to evaluate your skill sets. And, I think, and I was just actually on a phone call with the guy today, and I was really talking to him. I was like, okay, you have all these skill sets in technology, but you're trying to pursue real estate. Do you not like technology? Like why not? Like he's very skilled and versed in technology. I think it's awesome seeing it firsthand. So, we really got to have a really awesome conversation about that. And, for him at the end of the conversation, it wasn't that he necessarily wanted to get away from technology. He likes technology, but he wants the opportunities inside of real estate. So then the conversation was, okay, well, how can we marry those two and bring the skill set of tech instead of you trying to hammer through deals like real estate agents are? What if we take your skill set of technology, which is awesome, like partner it with what we've got going in real estate? What if we can build something even bigger, even better for everybody out of that kind of relationship versus, just trying to work these leads like, the agents. And it was an awesome conversation. But I think from that, when you're looking at the ladder of success and expectations, building wealth, building a legacy, you've got to look at what skill sets do you have right now. Some people are really good with people, right? Some people are really good at communicating and talking with people. Some people are good at motivating and encouraging people. Some people aren't good with people at all, but they're really good with, technology, which not to say technology people can't be good with people, but their skill set is over here with something else. And so, figuring out what is it that you're really good at, what is it that you're passionate at, you enjoy, and then how can you take that and bring value to the marketplace? And that may even be, the business. If you like, I could say if somebody came to Nathan right now and was like, man, I see this is what's happening inside of your business. Here's what I can do really well. Here's how I think I could help take your business to the next level. What I think I could do. I would love to work for you. I would love to help take your business to the next level. Like you may get, well, that's not really a direction we want to go right now, but I know somebody that, this may plug in really well for these guys over here, or maybe like, you know what? Yeah, that's like exactly where we want to go. Let's try it. Like, but that's the confidence in the skill set. Or if you do not have a skill set that you want to continue pursuing, then you've got to look at, okay, how do I step back and get on a path that takes me in the direction I want to go towards that goal? How do I get the expectation or how do I get the skill set to get to that place? So I think that evaluating your skill sets where you're at right now is so important, and figuring out, can those get you where you want to go? And then how do you get into a vehicle with those skill sets that helps take you that direction?
That's good. That's really good.
So we have, first goals, secondly, evaluating the skill sets, and then what do you feel like is like step number 3? I feel like we could almost like capstone it here. You got goals, you got skill sets. What do you got to do?
The thing that comes to me right now is not when you're on a ladder, sometimes you fall off. And so I really think, because as we're going through this, I keep picturing just if you fall off, remember you can get right back on. And I know that's cliche, and it's like you fall off the horse, you get back on, or whatever that may be. But I really think about that because even just hearing the word when we talked about the bankrupt, and my buddy next door, man, he is just building. He was able to build back very, very strong, and right now he's doing amazing things, and it's fun to watch. But I think most people, and it makes me think about like some of the biggest CEOs, some of the biggest businessmen out there. You'll hear that they've had companies bankrupt, they've lost everything, and then they've used those goals and those skill sets to build back again. And I think that's the key. Is I think that third place would have to be, and that can come from mindset, that can come from heart, it comes from everything within you. There was one quality that a guy, I made a post today, and I was like, what's the one quality that an agent needs to have as one of the most important? And it was actually, Randy, he said resilience. And I thought, man, that is so key, because if you fall off that ladder but you still see that the ladder is going up to the roof, well, you can get right back on and go to the roof. The ladder didn't crumble, it didn't break in half. The ladder's always there. But it's a matter of, do you get back in and do you step on that first step? So I would say that third goal is really more, it's going to always be about when you get to those goals, when you get to those skill sets, not letting your mindset break, not letting that heart break of like, I can do this, and I'm going to fall, but I'm going to get back on. Once again, we've said that many times through these episodes, but it's all foundational in what we're trying to do. If you're going to build, you have to be willing to say, oh, this thing crumbled. It's like if a Lego set's being built and Jathan's like, oh no, it broke apart. He's devastated, absolutely devastated. But the reality is he can build it again and create that product again. And so it's simply as that, like just knowing that you're going to have to get back up and get on that possibly.
And that honestly like leads back perfectly to manage those expectations out of the gate. Hey, when adversity comes, how are you going to handle it? That goes back to the first thing you talked about getting a mentor for guidance and accountability, getting somebody in your life that can tell you like, hey, you know what? This is tough, but it's not the end of the world. Get back on the ladder. Yeah. And something like specifically for me that I've had to learn through kind of that on-off process is slow and steady wins the race. If you experience a surge of growth, that's awesome. But the best foundations, I see like we have new builds going up near us right now. They pour that foundation and then they wait a few days. They don't pour the foundation and immediately start framing on top of wet concrete. Like the process just takes time, and that's okay. If you don't rush it, you take your time, you plan it right, you build it right, you have something strong that's going to last for years and years to come.
Yeah.
So that's powerful stuff, man. I love it. This has been an awesome topic. The ladder of success and expectations, talking about it in relation of building wealth, building legacy, setting those goals, evaluating your skill sets. And then when the hard times come, if you fall off the ladder, I think it always happens to somebody at some point. So when you fall off the ladder, get back on and have that perseverance. What was the word that Randy said?
Resilience. That
resilience. Have resilience. That's so good. That's so good. Well, it was awesome seeing everybody today. Thanks for stopping by for this week's episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. Here is to you in your own personal wealthy legacy journey. See you guys.